Hi everyone.
Hi everyone.
Hi everyone.
Hi everyone.
Hey everyone.
Hi everyone.
Hi everyone.
Hi everyone.
Hi.
Hi everyone. Welcome to Dave's Bonsai.
Welcome to Dave's Bonsai.
Welcome to Dave's Bonsai.
On today's episode,
on today's show, I think spring is finally here.
I've got a blue star juniper.
Minnesota weather does not get much better than this.
My 300th video. The airflow pipes are going in today.
Cabin Bonsai. PSGF.
The rain is not going to keep me from working on a forest. Thanksgiving arrived a little early.
Let's go to the cabin.
I dedicate this show to Tony. On today's show, it's Season 5 Year-End Review. Welcome everyone inside the Passive Solar Green Frame. What a great year it has been, and a big thanks to all of you for making all of this possible. By the airing of this episode, I think we'll be just about 75 shy, maybe 50 shy of 5,000 subscribers. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Hey, and welcome to Winter Solstice. As of right now, the premiere of this episode on the 21st of December, 2023 at about 8:47 p.m. the winter solstice kicks in. So this was the shortest day of the year. So from here on out, it's nothing but brightness, right? The days will slowly, eventually, start getting brighter and have more length to the light. Oh, I love this time of year because it's the excitement of what's to come. But we still have some winter to get through, don't we? And we have a year in review to get through as well. So this was a year about people, projects, and the big P right here, the PSGF. So let's get it all started with some of the people. Now, in 2022, I took a road trip with Toby out east, and we went to Canada, and we also went to Tipton, Michigan, where we met the wonderful, amazing Mr. Jack Weichel.
That is, where did you find that little gem? Look at that little fern growing in there.
Before the auction, it was taken up about this.
That big?
No, just a minute. You know, this thing is upstaging the whole composition. You know, the presentation here is this arrangement of variety and trunk sizes. These were collected seedlings from a fen where there were some endangered butterflies and stuff, and half a dozen of us from the Bonsai Society went and harvested multi-hundred of these and used them for workshop.
And
these were ones that Bill took home, grew them in a box for a while.
Was this a created pot here, a created slab?
I bought this, guess where? Milwaukee.
Really? That is an amazing piece of art.
And so we, you know, there were vendors there.
Yeah.
But the guy that had these wasn't a vendor. But we were eating lunch in this fast food place, and you know, okay, we had our badge. You know, and he's talking about, oh yeah, I'm in Bonsai. And he's, I'm making some pots. I've got something in my car. Interested. You might be interested in seeing.
And here they are.
Still coming over my cold. Got some nice hot tea here. Tom, I hope you got your tea ready for this episode, the year-end review. And we just got started. I'm going to get started by getting rid of some of the foliage that has fallen off inside the PSGF since we brought the plants in, so we don't, encourage any mold or any fungus to develop on these trees over this long dormancy here that we are in. And so, never forget my time with Mr. Jack Weichel. What an amazing man. You know, it was 90 plus degrees that day. He was out there with us for a couple of hours doing all the work, and we were helping him, he was helping us. It was just fantastic, and what a wealth of knowledge that man had. Check out all those episodes on the show, on my playlist. You'll be able to find a couple of interviews with Jack Weichel. And so next up, we have a visit to the Bonsai Zone. So this is a little bit of the highlights of kind of a behind-the-scenes approach where Toby filmed Mr. Nigel Saunders and I working on a tree.
And how much water does this hold?
I think it's 2.5 liters. There you go. There you go.
There it is.
There you go.
This is fabulous. I need to get me one of these.
Hi Hi everyone, Nigel Saunders here. It is Ficus Friday once again, and I have a very special guest in the Bonsai Zone, Dave from the YouTube channel Dave's Bonsai.
Hi.
Hi Dave, how's it going?
It's great. Thank you so much for having me.
It's so surreal to see you in person.
It's surreal that I'm holding the root spreader. You can see the tree is really bushy now, so obviously I want to prune it back to size.
Even the growth behind it has movement. So this one swoops down and then goes towards the back. There's two movements in that original older growth,
Which is a plus.
lends me to want to cut that one off.
I think
in
so
my
too.
first initial thought.
And another reason I think is that just above this new branch, you've got another older branch, whereas this one has more of a spot of sunlight, whereas this one's going directly
Right
underneath
underneath that one. That's competing.
So I agreed with that decision. Prune
Take that one
new
off.
shoot right off.
Right off.
No, I think
My perspective.
let's prune it above this leaf here, and it'll kind of splay out a bit.
This right here?
Yeah.
There you go.
Do you think? Maybe. Let's have a look from the front and just see if there's anything
Okay.
bothering us. We'll
Something
do
that
we'll do
stands
the
out?
carnage cam.
It's quite amazing.
We're getting some good thick branches coming off
It's
now.
like Canada and USA came together to make a North American ficus.
Yeah!
North American
exactly true.
ficus.
It's come a long way, and it's still got a long way to go, but it's getting that core structure and design to it. So that is all today. I want to thank Dave for coming down and helping prune up the Vietnam style ficus. It's been a delight. So that is all today for this fabulous Ficus Friday. I'm Nigel Saunders.
I'm David Weiss.
Thanks for joining me in the Bonsai Zone.
Oh, the one and only Nigel Saunders. You know, earlier in my episodes, at the end of actually season 3, or actually the end of season 4, I was in his greenhouse interviewing him, and that was the real, the boost I needed to create the PSGF. Sitting in his greenhouse, I was like, I am doing this in the summer of 2023, and lo and behold, we are in the PSGF right now because of Nigel Saunders and all his greenhouse videos. I certainly loved that. He is an amazing practitioner of bonsai. Lives, eats, breathes, sleeps, everything bonsai, and such a nice guy. Had a great time. That was fun getting some behind the scenes footage there. Thanks to Toby for doing all that shooting. Our next person on our year in review is Mr. Gilbert Kantu. Now, if you don't know Gilbert, he is from Little Jade Bonsai. And though he tried with other trees in the beginning, Gilbert only does Portulacaria afras. Let's check in with Gilbert and how it all began.
You know, it all started about 20 years ago. My wife and I got married. She got pregnant right away. And, you know, we were like, living in our apartment and kind of bored, and we would go to Target a lot. And I saw a little juniper there. And we had just watched The Karate Kid. And I'm like, man, I always wanted to get one. And so I ended up buying it. I just got the bug, right? I thought you can grow any tree anywhere. And so I had a little balcony and I started buying a lot of trees from eBay, all types of species. And I found a jade, a Portulacaria afra from a grower in Florida. I accumulated like maybe 40 to 50 trees in my little balcony. I mean, it was just filled with all kinds of plants. And we went out of town and came back, and I had no idea what the hell I was doing. So I ended up, by the end of the summer, I had killed all of them. And I mean, it's just crazy. I mean, they all slowly died for one reason or another, except for the Portulacaria.
Another one of the most amazing people on the planet Earth. And of course, everybody that I meet in the bonsai world has just been absolutely phenomenally nice. And Gilbert Kantu, that was part of some of my Up North Bonsai podcasts that I had been working on. I've had some people ask about the podcast of late, and Dave, when do you have the next episode? And I've been having a tough time getting people to agree to talk with me. Or the timing has been wrong, and so we just haven't been able to make it happen. So hopefully some more Up North podcast episodes in the future. I certainly enjoy spending the time with folks and talking about bonsai with them to get their insights, because this hobby, you really learn from everybody. And the more you hear about bonsai from people, the more you learn. And Gilbert was fantastic. An absolutely stunning photographer as well. Some of his pictures of his own trees are absolutely phenomenal. So I think he's a graphic design person by trade. So a very artsy fella who is very, very talented at what he does. So, check on his interview in full with the Up North podcast. All that stuff is linked down below in the description. Gilbert Kantu, a fantastic man. And now, the next person we're going to meet is a guy up in Duluth, Minnesota. So if you think growing bonsai is tough in your neck of the woods, how about Duluth, Minnesota? Tough place to grow bonsai? Maybe not. Here's Mr. Dave Severson.
These trees literally became my balm of healing, or an opportunity to just relax. And so I would, before I go to work in the morning, I would literally come out and mist. I'll mist before I actually water and just wander. But there's the 45 minutes where I would take a breath and go, okay, switch gears, go to work.
Yeah.
But even at work, I had some bonsai indoor tropical stuff around my desk. I had a chair just about where you're sitting, next to mine. And so these trees are all around, and people, I'd be working away and I'd look up and somebody said, never mind, I'm just going to be by the trees. These trees evoke feeling. Do they have feeling? I don't know. But what they do is there's a resonance when people come into the backyard that it is not unique. That as if I get out of my own way with just kind of telling stories, or when it's gotten quiet enough and I've noticed emotion in somebody, tearing up, quiet pauses, right in the presence, and that part of it is having the trees as high at this kind of level. Yeah. As I might say something like, something just happened. It's so much of the trees and their beauty, their uniqueness, I can get in the way of who they are. And depending upon if I have a good day and I can just let them strut their stuff to someone instead of me feeling like, well, you need to notice me also. That's one of the things that they facilitate that is unique.
Dave Severson brings some of his trees to the YMCA up there in Duluth, and so people get to look at his trees and they just are amazed. And then some of those people will actually end up going to his house and checking out the trees and his whole garden up close and personal. And boy, are they in for a treat. And then he talks about how some of them have even broken down a little bit in some tears just from the reaction of the beauty of his garden. Such a wonderful man, Dave Severson. Again, the people I meet in this bonsai world, second to none. Such amazing people. Thanks to Dave for letting us spend some time up there. I can't wait to get up to Dave's property in the fall to see some of his beautiful trees. He has a fair amount of larch up there. I want to see his collection in the fall. Now, our tribute to people from Season 5 would not be complete without talking about Tony. So I had a dedication show to our dear friend Tony, who left us far, far too soon. So a quick highlight of a tribute to the one and only Tony of Tony's Bonsai. This YouTube family, I've talked about it from time to time, is such an amazing family of support, passion, compassion for those of us that do either a YouTube channel or just do bonsai. And he was just a lot of fun. I think some of my fondest memories of Tony and some of his bonsais, the first thing that comes to mind usually is a close-up of his hands trying to crank some branch down, some trunk here and then a trunk there and then back this way. And, you know, and the shaking that he's like, is he going to just snap this thing right off? And a few times I think he did, right? Tony was a really good photographer, and he loved just going out on walks and just being with nature and taking some photographs. so I thought this would be a great time to really honor him. I don't have a lot of his bonsai art, but I have some of his photography that I'd like to show you now. A little bit of Tony's image through his lenses of his camera over the years. Another outstanding bonsai practitioner left us way too soon. I just heard from Tony's sister commenting on one of the videos that I had recently produced, and she was very thankful for us keeping Tony's memory alive and all the dedications and all the stuff that we continue to do around Tony's bonsai, and just keeping his spirit alive. The people of season number 5. So before I move on to the projects of season number 5, there are a few trees that I thought were, deserved an honorable mention, or just things that I thought I'd highlight. Just a couple of highlights of some of the trees of season number 5 and a couple places that we visited. This is my variegated Portulacaria afra, all trimmed up and nice. Aw, the Thanksgiving cactus. Now it is the second week of November. Thanksgiving is 2 weeks from this Thursday, and I didn't time that out quite well, did I? That's some of the prettiest carnage cam I've ever seen, eh, Jay? It's a twin trunk. We're going to see if this fuses together over time. And there's the trunks right there. That's the proposed front. You can see the nice twin trunks looking pretty good. We are going to take this thing out of this monstrous pot and see what's going on. See that yellow right in there? Yeah, that part's still alive. It almost looks like a heart. It looks like a heart with all the valves going in and out of there, but it looks kind of fun. It looks like it was a big old, huge, gnarly specimen, and now there's this rebirth here. So it was the day after the April Fool's snowstorm. We had 9 workers and about as many observers ready to get deep into the tree work and the knowledge from Peter T. Today it was time to put the Austrian pine for me in its first training box. So like with most trees, I started from the top to make sure I knew where the actual root flare was located. After working on the top, I moved to the bottom and slowly worked back up towards the pot. After I got the green light from Peter to us how much soil and roots we took off the bottom, I then focused on making what roots were left to be evenly distributed about 360 degrees around the center of the nabari. Peter had us also bare root about 25% of the root ball, and in this case in the front of the tree, and we left the rest of that soil for future repots. Even though that's going to be chopped off one day, there we go, we cut a branch off. I just feel better already. Is spring here yet? Can we put trees out? Well, we're going to have to show you on another episode. My Austrian pine bit the dust. These were repotted, and we had one more cold spell after the repot. And though these are very Minnesota hardy and there's a lot of soil in this box, I wonder if my fresh new roots, I don't know that it got to freezing any of those nights, but awfully close, and I had it out on the porch a couple more nights than I should have instead of in the garage. That's what I'm going to go with. You know, so many trees, so little time. Hey, let's go check out what happened at Bonsai Acres this past season. Well, that's going to wrap things up out at Bonsai Acres today. Can't thank Cale enough and Toby enough for being out here. Got the holes drilled. We got some trees planted, canons and the Korean firs. And this last little nook over here with a couple of maples still hanging tough is Bonsai Acres. Always kick off my trips out here with a walk through the trees. Just checking things out. How are they different from the last time I was here? Today I'm hoping to put a few bends and curves to the trees. I'm going to wire up some of these trees. I'm also going to clip some late fall pruning to set up a new leader for next year's growth season. I got some really big trees that we'll be digging out next spring. And depending upon what we keep on this tree, this could become the main branch. This might not even survive or be the shape that I want. Will we get back budding where we want them? And then there's this branch back here. So all of this is experimental. I wish this could stay down like this, but it's just not going. I might have to add one more layer of wire around this section. So I enhanced the curve a little bit. Hard to see on camera, it's facing right at you. But coming up this way and curving, setting the stage for these branches over here and possibly this future branch right here. Time will tell. I so love being out at the farm, Bonsai Acres. And for those of you that don't know, it is my dream to pick up about 10, 15 acres of land and start the real Bonsai Acres, having many of acres, and planting some trees, and then maybe making the next 2.0 version of the passive solar green frame. Crossing my fingers, wishing and hoping. Another place I do love to go is up at the cabin. On today's episode, it's gorgeous out. Let's go to the cabin. And I don't mean that one. We had to get into the cabin first. There's always a trek in. It's kind of funny. The last time Toby and I were up here, I don't think he was 6 years old. There's some great footage from that time.
Now, we're at the dirt road. Toby is help driving. Dad's wheel.
You're helping to drive Dad's wheel? Hey, you guys ready?
Yeah. I see the fire.
What does it look like?
Tree pump. That's a pumpkin. But really, it's a piece of wood that from the fire.
Warm enough, even with the crystallized snow, to make a little snow person. And there's one thing snowmen don't like. Wah, I have to go home. And look who's getting a free ride. Toby, what's that we're looking at?
Tree.
Yeah.
Cool tree.
Truly one of my fondest memories is bringing the kids up when they were young and the sledding down to what we call the Partridge Hill or the Sandy Hill. It was a perfect sled hill. It was great. We got in, got a fire started. We hopped up on the roof. Our first hike today was along the river. Such a unique perspective. We're on the ice, frozen. Grandfather Gramps, my Uncle Joe, and their friend Skip, they owned this cabin. It's always nice to see in nature some of the things we try to replicate in bonsai, that people go like, you worked on that, you manipulated that. Yeah, we kind of do. It's an art form, right? And art imitating life. That perhaps was one of my favorite episodes of the year, simply for the memories. Watching the kids from 2004, 5, 6-ish as we went up to the cabin in the wintertime, which is a rare thing. Man, I watched that episode 3 or 4 times, maybe more in the last year. So fun. And they certainly loved watching that one as well. I hope you enjoyed that episode. Of course, the full episode is on my playlist. Check that out. Anybody care to do the bonsai shuffle? If you listen long enough to the meteorologists, there are 2 spring seasons. For us bonsai enthusiasts, I think there are 3. So for the weather folks, there's meteorological spring which is the 1st of March. But then, of course, the actual spring happens a few weeks later on the 20th, 21st of the month, and that's the official move into spring. And then, of course, you have the 3rd spring, the Bonsai Shuffle. As I take my trees out of the cabin cold frame a couple at a time, I think all of these trees will probably stay outside for the rest of this spring and summer and into fall. But when you've got those mid to low 30 threats, that's when things can get a little bit hairy.
The Bonsai Shuffle will take on a whole new meaning now with my passive solar green frame. Things will come in here, things will stay out there. We'll make different decisions based on how the experiment goes here with the PSGF. More on that a little bit later. But we continue our year in review with a visit to, I have no idea what I'm introduced next.
Hey everyone, welcome to Dave's Bonsai. On today's episode, we're heading outside for a Winter Wonderland photo shoot. Today is Wednesday, the 4th of January, and our school finally had its first snow day in about 5-6 years. We're going for a walk. I'm heading into the park.
But we must continue on the year in review, and boy, it's time to talk about the other P for this episode, and that is projects. And there were aplenty of them.
That's right. It's two hands coming out of the earth in the grass at a park with a tree in there. Hands down, cupped the way I want it. But I need the rest of the mold to come out here and have the rest of the pot right here. Oh, yeah, there we go. There it is. I've had a blast putting this together. And my wife, by the way, yeah, she still thinks it's a bit creepy.
Here I'm plucking away and cleaning up the forest from Candace, our friend Candace, who recently donated a big chunk of trees for me to take care of and some folks in the Minnesota Bonsai Society because life just got a little too busy for Candace, and Candace did not want her trees to go by the wayside. So here is yet another forest that I own, thanks to Candace. And if you haven't guessed it by now by watching some of my shows, I like the forests.
Because we want these to be real tall, like almost like an old growth forest. And then these foreground trees kind of take up some of that early view. So up here on the workbench, we've got all the 3 Siberian elm forests. It looks really scraggly. Sprigs in here that we can kind of clean up. And we swapped it out for tree number 2 now and continue to work on the structure of this one. Forest number 3 now. Number 3. When we're making the muck recipe that I make with the sphagnum moss and the akadama, you know, I don't want this powdery. I want longer strands of this so this can form into kind of like a wall, right? There we go. There's a good consistency for muck and a bad consistency for muck. But when we have a nice mix of water, the sphagnum moss, and the akadama, we're in good shape. I think that Zelkova in the back should be moved over just slightly. So we're playing a forest with Zelkova. There's the back. We got a little bit of muck still exposed. but that's holding that forest in back there. This is about a 40-pound rock, so not too bad for me to carry. I don't need my son Toby right against that rock. Now the challenge with a rock planting is this is probably going to dry out faster than my other pots. It's certainly shallow, but again, a shallow pot doesn't release as much moisture as a deep pot, but we're going to have to watch these roots. Hopefully these roots on this tree are going to grow way inside. These are going to grow down and inside underneath our cave. And I want the cave in there. I want that part of the design, because if there were humans down here walking on this trail right here, these would be big trees someday. And I want that to see if we can save some of that scale. So this is the big larch bog forest, but it's not so much a bog forest completely because of what I'm trying to do with this forest. We've got all kinds of movement on this forest, and I've got one that's dying in this forest. Let's see if I can get it up top. It's coming straight at us, so I'm just going to cut that off. I'm going to make this shorter, make this much shorter, make this much shorter.
Oh, how I love the larch trees and the larch forests and everything larch. Man, they're stunning in nature, and they're pretty stunning on the bonsai benches in the fall. So as I continue a few more trees here in the Passive Solar Green Frame, we've got some more projects to talk about. And the next one is the Landscape Challenge. So someone challenged me to do a landscape, and so I went ahead with a vision in my head that I had from growing up and heading up north all those years and seeing those really cool hay bales in the farm fields. And then one great big majestic oak tree that the farmer didn't take down. Well, I'll just let the video do the talking. I'm going to decide tonight, I hope, if I'm going to have one road through the farmyard. Do I just have the road that this side? So here's the proposed front with the new grass on the oak tree. It looks like a little hill and a mound. And we've got the back, kind of cool from the neighbor's yard. They can see a pretty nice field. We've got this side right here. And then here we come with the front. My idea here is I left a little extra of the mesh on either side, and I'm going to put some now akadama. So this is the farmland, and they've already tilled some of the farm, so it settles it just a little bit for you. Starting out as sphagnum moss. We'll see if it turns into any green color to make it look like it's kind of got some underbrush. Let's add that last element right now. The Landscape Challenge complete. So as we move to the right, kind of a neat image right here, this kitty corner. You can see both the car and you can see the hay bale starting to come into the front there. And we spin this around, and then this of course is the traditional view of a bonsai pot. So those were just a few of the projects from season number 5, and of course perhaps the biggest P in the projects.
Hi everyone, welcome to Dave's Bonsai. On today's episode, PSGF.
Now this combination greenhouse cold frame, 12 by 6, 5 feet deep. Yeah, the first step for me, part 1 of the PSGF, was to dig a big hole.
So we're going to dig out another layer or two today and then take a break, because this definitely needs stages, or I'm going to kill myself. I used the toss method. I used wheelbarrows. I used buckets, climbing up ladders to get up and down and to remove all this soil. Again, 12 feet long, 6 feet wide, 5 feet deep. And so the first stage is the foundation. Toby's been here for the last couple of hours. We've had a couple of slides. Toby put all the rebar in. We've got the frame in here. It's relatively level, maybe a few taps here and there as we go, but it's time to mix some cement. This is super exciting. Let's just get to it. We've got some cement to do, some more back-baking work. We got the water, we got the cement, we got the mixing trowels, and we have the everything we need. Let's just get going.
After a couple days of pouring cement into the foundation forms, we had a big hole with the foundations to support the 12 by 6 foot structure above ground and a place for the air tubes. More on that in a bit. Now in part 2 of the PSGF, I just do a little bit more explaining on why am I building this thing.
I believe that this PSGF will extend a little bit of the growing season for my trees. And I'll have a really good place for my tropical trees in the summer with the heat of the greenhouse at that part of the year. So kind of greenhouse in the summer and kind of cold frame in the winter time. And the goal, I'll remind you, is to keep the temperature as regulated as possible. So the general concept is we've got a hole in the ground right now from part 1 that we're going to eventually put some tubing in there, and the air is going to circulate from down below the freezing point of the earth, where it always stays between 40 and 50 degrees depending upon what part of the country you're in or part of the world, and that air is going to circulate when we need it.
If you go back and watch the whole series, you'll see where all the airflow comes from and goes to. But again, the air comes down the pipe, goes through to the corrugated pipes down below the ground, and comes back up on that side. It's relatively warm air in the winter time, like right now, to keep it above freezing. Then in the summertime, it takes the warm air and it cools it down in here.
It's PSGF Part 3. That's right, the passive solar green frame is ready to start Phase 3. So we measured out the tubes, so we would have a cap on one end, and we'd have the intake and the outtake tubes going up, the elbow of the 6-inch PVC piping. And then we have some couplers that are going to have all the weeping tile, the tubing, to get connected to it. So the weeping tile or draining tile, or in this case, air tubes for us, perforated and socked. And they come in 100-foot rolls. I need 9 to go across at about 9 feet. We're going to open this up and we're going to start doing some measurement and get these into place. There is the vent that's going to bring up the cool air in the summertime, and it's going to bring up the warm air in the wintertime. We've got most of the tubes covered. We can see a little bit of the white sheeting there. Probably about another half a dozen wheelbarrows. We'll level all this out, and then sand will finish the job.
Now in part 4, it was time to do the framing. I couldn't wait to put some hammer and nail to use. In part 4 of the PSGF, it was time to start the framing of the structure. I was so excited. A little less taxing than all the cement and digging, but still took a lot of brain power in trying to figure out the nooks and the crannies and the angles, and well, you'll see what happened.
Day 2 of the wall build. Yesterday we finished the back wall and the front wall, and parts of the west wall were done. So I got a quick jump start this morning.
Part 5, more frame building. And remember everyone, if I've said it once, I've said it a million times. Measure twice, or a whole lot more, and cut once.
Another day has come and gone. A little bit slower than I anticipated, but I put all the 2x4s inside the trusses after I fixed my little befuddle and made them nice and parallel with all the windows, or lined up. I put the 2x4s in 2 boxes, so the glass is going to sit right on the 2x4 inside the 2x6s. This is exciting. We got a roof to make, some roof trusses, and one more little extension section, and then we're going to cover up the side with some more plywood, and then we're going to install windows.
Hey everyone, welcome to Dave's Bonsai. On today's episode, PSGF Part 6.
Let's begin with the top of the PSGF. I still needed to build the last and final wall that would sit just on top of where the long plates of glass were going to be sitting. Now the main challenge with this part of the build was the height at which I had to get up and down and measure and pound and cut. After connecting an extension piece, if you will, to my 4x4 center beam, I was able to put the wall that I assembled down below up into the top. Now that lift was one of the most dangerous moves of the PSGF to date. I don't think I filmed that part, and it's likely a good thing, or you'd all be telling me to be careful, though I do appreciate those caring sentiments. Now the puzzles. I needed to put the OSB on the front side of the PSGF, both top and bottom. Boy, did I end up with some very interesting shapes. I also ended up with some very sore forearms after all that jigsawing. Sharp blades make life easier. Put the house wrap around the structure. Now the north wall again was the easy part. The rest needed a bit more care to get it done. I needed to give them a quick wash first. They cleaned up nicely and were ready to put in place for good. I was able to use my new nail gun and compressor with the trim boards around the windows. Boy, was that a treat. I might have to get a bigger one, a bigger gun that is, for the bigger nails for my next project. The windows all went in with not too much struggle. And what would this epic project be without more aerial footage?
So not only is the door in place, but I was able to get all 5 of the windows in place. Once the windows were in place, it was time for the ever so popular shiplap and the roof boards.
Well, there were a few kinks along the way. A few kinks here and there. A couple things we have to patch up a little bit. But when it's all covered up, no one will see it but you and I. Hi everyone, welcome to Dave's Bonsai. On today's episode, do I have to dig this hole again?
Not only was I worried about the dig question, I found out the panes of the windows were too big for the frames I made. I, of course, fixed that eventually and then started with a little bit of putsy stuff that needed to be done. I added some landscape rocks for the outside of the PSGF and actually got 2 of the 3 big windows into place.
PSGF Part 8.
All the joy and the relief that I didn't have to dig another hole. Instead, I was able to put in the quartz stone on the floor of the PSGF. That was a huge mile marker for me, for I could now start walking on what would be the actual green frame floor. I created some cement pillars to hold up the main green frame shelving and then started putting the final wall surface materials on the walls. I set up my solar panel and power station and continued with other putsy stuff along the way. That included trim work and the vent windows that would open up automatically at 75 degrees for ventilation. We made it! The final episode, number 9. In the final episode in this project series, I painted. I constructed the shelves, I added a water bucket, and then was ready to bring it to a close with the metal siding and roofing. Still can't believe I did that roof on my own.
So I'll paint and caulk, and the outside is done on the 22nd of October. I was hoping to be done November 1st. This is so exciting.
Well, there you have it, everyone. A year in review, and what a fantastic year it was. Thanks again for all the support, for all you folks out there watching. Again, as we watch this video,
I'm approaching 5,000 subscribers. Never would have thought that would have happened. I really didn't, and I just feel so blessed to have everybody giving me so much support. And onwards and upwards, I can't wait for another new year. So keep the comments coming in, keep the connection. I feel such a strong connection with all of you out there. I appreciate you so very much. And the experiments continue with the biggest project of them all, the biggest of the P, People, Projects, and PSGF, is what we're in right here, broadcasting from tonight. On this winter solstice night, happy winter, everybody. Happy bonsai. And hey, take care of you, take care of your bonsai, and we've got a new season to do a whole lot more work together. Take care, everybody.